It's about time to start another Zoom Hangout here. Got Coach Davis. Got a nice, refreshing iced coffee here in my my main studio. We're ready to go. Welcome back, everybody, to Zoom Hangout with Coach Davis. I'm AJ Ricketts. Butch, what's been going on since we what was it, Friday? Yeah, last talked. I'm sure the meetings have ramped on with the coaches, with the athletes, with administrators and conference exec. What's been going on the last couple of days?
Oh, AJ, I mean, one of the things, obviously, and I think all the people that are listening or will listen later on, we're trying to Zoom position meetings. So every one of our 10 position coaches doing particular meetings. Sometimes it's with the varsity kids, and sometimes maybe because of the level with the incoming freshmen, they do a separate meeting maybe in the afternoon. That way they can kind of go back to square one and things out to some of the incoming freshmen that they're truly not really ready. But I will tell you one thing that's been a positive from this is that the freshmen, they're getting 10 times more football information, the position meetings, the offense, defense, special teams meetings that they would have never gotten. Because if we weren't going through this coronavirus deal, they'd be in high school, they'd be going through their thing, they'd be getting ready for the prom, they'd be getting ready for for graduation, and we would not have had any access to them until they would have come for second summer session, which would have been at the end of month of June. So for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and obviously until then, they're going to get probably 15 to 18 to 20 meetings they would have never gotten. So that part of it, we're doing special teams meetings twice a week. DJ McCarthy is the new special teams coordinator. We do a meeting on Mondays and we do them on Thursdays for about 30 minutes, and we're trying to cover the core major things of special teams. The kickoff return, the punt return, and kickoff cover. Those are the 4 big major things. And, we're not doing a lot of the scheme type things as much as teaching them some of the drills. We got all the videos over the last so that we can show kids, this is the technique that you're using. This is the landmark that you've got to go to. This is what's important about each of those 4 phases. So we're covering that. Staff meeting twice a week, and those usually go a couple of hours because you usually have a lot to cover, whether it's academics with the players, whether it's strength and conditioning with Andrew Swayze giving us an update. He's reaching out to all the players, and Kevin O'Neill, who does a phenomenal job, he stays on top of the health of our football players, not only from a physical health standpoint from the coronavirus thing, but also, just for guys that had post-season surgery, how are they doing? How's the rehab? How are they coming along? So there's a lot of things that we try to cover, AJ, during all of those meetings. And, so that's the football aspect of it. I'm not chasing the bear. I don't, raccoon hat and a shotgun and stuff. But the bear's he's still running around the neighborhood.
Well, his friends are apparently around now too.
He's looking for Maxwell. He's looking for Napoleon Maxwell. He thinks he's one of his and stuff.
Yeah, careful when you're walking around here. We're talking about guys who are now looking at the playbook instead of looking at what to wear for prom. When you're looking at your athletes, whether they're returners or they're incoming freshmen, they're getting the mental side of it. But is there any way for you to evaluate or analyze improvements? What guys are trying to do physically and what you're trying to see from them, whether it's technique from a quarterback or, strength out of a skill position or your line. Are you able to analyze the physical side of things?
You know what, AJ, it's a great question because there's 2 aspects of it. You talked about the physical aspect and also the mental. Yeah. Well, the mental, sometimes that's easy because they're questions. Are they retaining some of the things that you've been covering for the last 3 weeks? And then the questions that they ask, are they digging deep, or are they trying to get to level 2, 3, 4? And they're like, okay, I understand this. Sure. We do this if there's motion and shift, or if there's a disguise on defense, and they want to ask a question. Well, what happens if this guy does that? If they're asking a lot of good questions and they're trying to learn. Yeah. From a physical standpoint, we've actually asked, and our position coaches have asked guys to video some of the drills that they're doing. Not maybe the entire workout, but if it's a defensive back and they're working on back pedals and transition breaks, getting in and out of a break as if the ball was thrown on an out route or a curl or whatever the route might have been, and you can kind of look at that, and then you can kind of critique them, and you can say, you know what, you need to be just a little bit lower. You need to keep your elbows in. You need to drop your shoulders just a little bit, or sink your hips for every one of the positions. Obviously, Tommy is punting and kicking and stuff, so we get a chance to watch him kick maybe 6 or 8, 10 kicks a day, and just look at his mechanics and see how he's doing. And the guys, there's a few guys, and so they get a chance to kind of train and run. So that's kind of it's exciting to see them doing it, and also know that they're challenging each other. So, are we getting absolutely everything done?
No.
Nobody is. Nobody in the country is. But the one good thing, AJ, that did come out, I had a leadership meeting on Monday nights, and I have like 18 players that represent. Usually it's 2 players from just about every one of the individual positions. And so we talk about a variety of things. What does it take to be a leader? What do you need to do if you're going to step up and lead, and those kinds of things. But talking to them, one of the great things that came out of that meeting was 14 of the 18 now live someplace where they have access to a weight room, which is, and because the weight rooms, it's whether it's an assistant high school coach that has a weight room in his garage, whether it's, some place where they've got some of the high schools have opened up in different parts of the country. They've opened up, the weight rooms at the high school. So now kids are, instead of just doing push-ups and vertical jumps into the bed of a pickup truck, now they're actually getting a chance to go and do some squat, curl, benches, and those kinds of things. And we're really, AJ, Swayze does a phenomenal job on like long distance running. Okay. We don't need kids out there running a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles or 4 miles. This is more about speed. It's about quickness. It's 10-yard sprints, 20-yard sprints, those kinds of things like that. Because when we come back, that's what they're going to be asked to be doing.
Sure. Well, if you want any of them to run 4 or 5 miles, me, I'll put them through the ringer. But also, it's good to hear that they're in an environment now where it seems like they can get back to what they're a little bit more used to, and not rather than, like you said, hopping in the back of the pickup truck. But I think everyone knows they're getting, in terms of the playbook and learning the mental side of things, that they're absorbing all of that. But it's, I think a lot of us are wondering, well, how do you analyze and see the improvement physically? And it's good to see that's been able to take place. A couple Twitter questions here.
One of the things, I'll tell you this is one of the things the coaches are doing and stuff like that, is bring up a topic, a blitz or something like that, and have you, because it's on a Zoom. So you got lots of linemen on there, and ask one of the players, you explain it to the other 11 guys. Now you're going to find out when the microphone's in front of them, do they answer alignment, the techniques and all those kinds of things. So we used to do this all the time. We did it whenever I was at Miami and with the Dallas Cowboys. Is a little bit of like hand somebody the chalk and tell one of the players to go to the board, okay, and it's like a surprise pop quiz. Go up there and draw this formation and draw this defense and how we do it. And trust me, people know if there's a chance that they're going to be put on the camera in front of the rest of their teammates, they're going to know what to do.
You're not staying sharp here. You got to be ready to go for the Zoom meetings.
Exactly. And you can't tell us that your Wi-Fi is not working either. Okay?
Got to be ready to go for these Zoom meetings. Jack on Twitter, that's a good question. I know you have a great philosophy on this. He says, Coach, for kids coming up nowadays, how important play multiple sports in middle school and in high school. I think there's the statistic out there that the percentage of professional NFL players that played in multiple. What your take on it?
Yeah, AJ, that's a great question, and I'm a old school. I love the fact that kids play multiple sports. I really think that it helps them become a much better, whether you go from football to wrestling, you go from football to basketball to baseball to and some other sports, because one thing that comes out of that is kids love to compete. I want to play. I want to go and compete against somebody because I want to try to win. I also, there became a period of time 20 years ago that the big buzzword in training was cross training. And they would take athletes and they would cross-train them. Well, 1920s until probably the 1980s, cross-training was just go play multiples, play basketball, flip your hips, jump, vertical jump, run up and down the court, and running track and all those kinds of things. So I think it's critical. And you just alluded to the fact there was a statistic that came out that something like
it's higher than 80%.
Oh, it's like of the first round draft choices over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like over 80% of them played multiple sports.
Exactly.
So all the people that think, let's just focus on one sport, that's not necessarily the best way to get to wherever you want to try to be.
No, absolutely. Especially in middle school. Try new stuff. You don't need special. It's
more fun, Absolutely. Have more fun. Go play Little League baseball.
Yeah.
Or go play summer baseball, play soccer. I mean, soccer didn't exist. I mean, it existed when I was you had soccer. It was called kickball. Okay, and you kicked it across the sidewalk and you scored a point and stuff. Yeah. But running and chasing that ball and having fun and stuff like that. So I mean, there's not a lot of things that other sports can't help you become good in your sport.
Every single signing day, we're listing off the accomplishments and all the sports that seemingly every one of our signees has played. A lot of track and field, a lot of basketball guys, and thrown in there. And
AJ, let me just add this one other thing. I think a lot of times, and if you want to go back, North Carolina, Miami, even here at Oklahoma State when I was with Jimmy there, and we, the philosophy of recruiting athletes, there was a lot of times that the kids that we signed, was a defensive end that maybe was 6'3", 6'4", but he was 215 pounds. And somebody else would sign a 6'3", 6'4" kid that was 240, except for the fact that our kid that we signed, he played basketball. So he played 35, 40 basketball games. Then he left from that and he went and he ran track. He threw the disc. He ran on the mile relay team. And then all of a sudden he goes to college. The next thing you know, he's 275 pounds because now he can eat. He's focusing on one sport. So, I think that to look at some of those kids, don't worry about it. Your kid's going to grow up and he's going to do okay.
Hey, before the next Twitter question, real quick, when you were in Oklahoma coaching in high school, you were high school track and field for a season or two, right? Were you with the disc or what specialty were you coaching?
Almost all of it. Because I'm an assistant, I coached the boys and the girls, junior high and high school, and we'd have 3 or 4 track meets. The junior high kids on Monday and Wednesday, and the high school kids on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah. Wasn't a coach for every event. No.
Yeah, and sometimes there would be one of the assistant coaches, an offensive line coach that you could help. They could take the shot and the disc and stuff. But as an athlete, when I was in high school, I actually participated in 7 different sports. Back then, they didn't have limitations, so I ran all the sprints, I ran the hurdles, ran all the relays. I didn't do was pole vault.
That can be a dangerous one.
All the rest.
So maybe that's.
Yeah.
Flying
backwards. I would never counted enough to do
I get a little timid when I'm running up to the pit of the pole vault whenever I want to try it. That's fun. All right, our next thing, Ryan on Twitter. I like this. Temperatures are going up, Coach. Are you a grill man? If so, what's your favorite thing to cook at the barbecue?
Yeah, I do try to grill a lot of things, okay, but my favorite is obviously the steak. I mean, I love putting steaks on there and making some tabbouleh and some salad and some baked potatoes. And my wife's favorite thing, if we're going to if somebody says, okay, what are you going to grill on Sunday afternoon or Sunday night, that's probably going to be it. But we'll do chicken and we'll do hamburgers and hot dogs and, we'll do a little bit of everything. I wish I was good at doing ribs. Doing baby back ribs and slow cooking them, but I never did. I never did learn how to do it.
It's all making me nice and hungry right now. I've been putting too much stuff in the microwave instead of on the grill. I got to fix that during all this spare time. I got to get out of the microwave. All right, let's talk a little bit today, kind of focusing on quarterbacks and the running backs moving forward. And we'll keep it with the returners. We did a lot of spotlight and focus on our incoming freshmen with our signing day show. So we'll just keep it with our returning players. Let's start with the guys under, obviously the one player we have coming back with playing time, with experience, is Wiggins. Performed very well in the game when he needed to, when James was out. That was New Hampshire. For 23 yards on the ground over the course of the year in that game against New Hampshire, 187 and 2 scores. It was a really fun game to watch out of him. What have you seen out of his progression throughout his redshirt year and then his year season and what you want to see out of him in terms of his improvement.
Yeah. AJ, one of the things, obviously, one of the big things was when Alex Magoo got hurt, in the bowl game in 2017. As we learned a lesson that, we've got to give backup quarterbacks significantly more practice repetitions throughout the entire course of this. An opportunity as a result of that, even though James was going to be the starter, Kalen was getting a lot more reps during the week, so that if something did, unfortunately, doing with James where he did get hurt, he could come in and he could do a much better job and be better prepared to go in. As you well know, obviously he's a terrific athlete. His running ability is excellent. And but what you learned and what you saw from him was how much more focused he was that year than maybe the previous year.
Yeah.
When you think that you're going to go into the game, you better, because you've got 95 to 100 other players that are looking at you, and you don't want to let them down. You want to make sure that you're 100% prepared to go in.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that not only Caleb and Stone and all the quarterbacks that were there, we really truly needed spring practice. It would have been a phenomenal, guys, go through those 15 days of practice, go through all the drills, let them gain some confidence and let them compete and let them see how they would play under pressure in a practice, with the defense coming after you and blitzing and until we can put all these quarterbacks in situations like that this summer, it's going to be, you can kind of get an idea when guys tell you watching film, they're looking at the secondary and they're looking at the disguise and they're looking at the alignment of a corner or a safety, and they can say, okay, they're getting ready to disguise this. They're going to go into that. But that's all fine and good. But that 3 seconds when the ball is snapped and there's live contact coming, now's when you find out who can actually play. So, that's going to focus emphasis, whenever we do get a chance to come back, whether it's in July or in August.
Yeah, a little bit different when a big old defensive end is about to fly into your face. But to that point, I like that note. You're saying, his practice mentality may have been different last year as compared to the redshirt year, because he knows he's going to go in a game. And I think you mentioned in a podcast a couple of years ago, hey, I want to build up our line per se. So I can tell on these 3 or 4 guys, hey, you're going to have a series. The third series of the game might be yours. Guys that may not play that much. And then they go into that week of practice with a whole different kind of energy.
In every place, AJ, that I've coached, and I learned it the hard way. When we went through all the sanctions and the probation at Miami and we lost those 33 scholarships, you didn't have a lot of depth in the offensive line until the end of it, until 1999 and 2000. Then we finally got enough talent that the first 5 guys were terrific, outstanding. But we learned that, we wanted to start playing 7 and 8 and potentially sometimes 9 offensive linemen, and not when you're ahead 45-0. Put them in the middle of the first quarter and say, you're going in on the third possession. And I don't care if we're backed up at the 3-yard line or we're about to score, you're going in the game. Watch their preparation, how much film they watch, how well they do on tests, how much they practice harder taking the rep, because mentally they're taking the rep. And we did the same thing at North Carolina. We did the same thing in 2018 situation where we were able to play 8 or 9 offensive linemen. We didn't have that big of a situation last year where we could play about 7 of them.
Yeah.
But, I think that's critical. And obviously with the quarter, want them to feel like they're earning the chance to be the starting quarterback.
I'll let you spotlight whichever you want about the rest of the guys. I'll preface it with, got in that New Hampshire game when Kalen got bruised up for a second. He was warming up on the sideline, ready to come in, didn't not, but he was really close. And then, of course, and you look at the rest of the roster, Stone Norton, redshirt last year, obviously got great experience under James Morgan. We talked about Hayden Carlson during the signing day show, but he is a talented quarterback coming out of Florida. So whichever one of those guys you want to expand upon, but what do you think is important for the rest of the quarterback crew here?
Caleb and Stone, one of the great things that if they were doing what they needed to do was watch James Morgan.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like being the backup quarterback with Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. Watch here. what do they do during the course of the week to get ready to play on Saturday? You may not get all the reps during the week that they get, but you can get the mental reps, and you can see how they can prepare, how they test, and how they practice, and how important that practice actually is, that you can't waste the reps. So hopefully, we got a chance to watch them. One of the things that I put a lot of emphasis on, AJ, with the entire team, is when you're a third-team player or a fourth-team player or an incoming freshman or redshirt freshman, you're probably going to spend a pretty significant amount of time on the scout team. And there's kids that go over there and they got a chip on their shoulder and they're like, I didn't sign to come here to be on the scout team. And then there's other kids that go over there and, you know what, I'm getting ready to get 65 snaps today. And I'm going to be throwing, I'm going to be handling, I'm going to work on my mechanics, on my technique, and I'm going to get better. And some of the best football players that I have ever coached any place were guys that were great on scout teams, okay? I mean, Frank Gore and Willis McGahee, those were the two scout team running backs my last year at the University of Miami. And, I mean, those were pretty talented kids. I mean, and I've watched kids, I've watched Bryn Renner be on the scout team when T.J. Yates was the starting quarterback. And they loved the opportunity to go over there and take the reps. That's better than holding
the clipboard,
a clipboard, and you're taking notes and you're charting stuff. I'd rather go over there and do that. And that's why you fans know transferred from Florida. Yeah. And in 2017, he to become eligible for the 2018 season. He was phenomenal in practice. The defensive back, Stanley Thomas, and those guys will tell you he was a nightmare. He ran routes like it was the Super Bowl. So how did it help him? Well, the next year he became one of the best receivers in the day and got a chance to go to the NFL because of that, And so, I mean, so you look at Caleb and you look at Stone and you say, okay, guys, you tell them that prior to, and then you keep telling them throughout the course of the season, these are your reps, okay? And then we do some practices where we practice on Sunday afternoons with the freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and try to continue to let them in our scheme. And, so I'm anxious to get them back and see how they look.
Yeah, certainly a precedent already within the program with guys being on the scout team and then playing a major role in what we're trying to do here. So forefront of their minds as they compete for their time moving forward. Let's transition to the running backs. I've checked the roster numerous times, and Napoleon and Anthony are not on it anymore. They have exhausted their eligibility. They've been around since the ground. We love them. We're rooting for them, but they're not going to be in an FIU jersey this year. So they're moving on. So we got transition, but boy, that room is still stacked. Let's start with our veteran, our senior, Devontae. It's kind of been the third wheel of that rotation for the last couple of years, but certainly has been very effective, whether he's been lining up in the slot or in the backfield. Just your thoughts here on Devontae Price, and he's going to play a big role this year.
No, there's no doubt about it. And one of the things, we are grateful and we feel very fortunate that room is that talented. And Devontae, obviously going into his senior year, he has played a variety of different roles. He's played running back. He's gone out and because we tried to get through, probably maybe plays a game, 3 running backs in the game at the exact same time. So he has played in the slot. He's played wide receiver. He's big. He's strong, physical. He can catch the ball. He's an excellent blocker. If we run some kind of jet sweep with Maurice Alexander, and he's enough that he will dominate, defensive back guys and even outside linebackers. So what we try to do is we want to try to get these guys more involved in a lot of things, throwing them the ball, get them some routes. We want to also try to find, and this is one of the things, AJ, that I have been a devout believer in, and talking to our offensive staff. When you've been around, we had a kid that his name was Ernest Anderson at Oklahoma State, rushed for like 1,900. He led the nation in rushing, and he was the reason that Oklahoma State, Thomas and Barry Sanders, and then obviously being with Emmitt Smith and then all the great running backs that I had at the University of Miami. Here's the thing. Every single running back likes different things. If you say as an offensive coordinator or a running back coach, here's the 8 plays, we're running these 8 plays, and I don't care what the kids like, you're stupid. I mean, you need to find because I can tell you that Clinton Portis he loved having a fullback in front of him. He really did. He an H-back or a fullback and stuff. Even though when he went into the NFL and for the Redskins in Denver, it was mostly a single running back deal, as opposed to Edgerrin James. Edgerrin, I took them from Dallas in the early years in Miami. We had a fullback and stuff. He said, Coach, I don't want that guy. He blocks he says, I want to see all of the holes. I don't D-gap on the right. If there's a hole in the left, I'm cutting. That guy gets in the way. And every kid, I mean, every player that's a running back, if you ask them, and some of them there may be like 3 or 4 plays they all like. Do they like power? Do they like zone? Do they like sweep? Some kids don't like sweep. Some kids don't want to run behind a fullback. So what we have to do as a coaching staff with all of these guys, now that we've had them for a while, we kind of know what they like. And these are things that we're going to focus on in the game preparation to put them into the game.
I think when people analyze or look at, the personality of a running back and what they enjoy, they might think, oh, maybe this guy's more willing to line up in the slots or in a dual running back set. But it's not just where they like to line up. It's the formations. It's who's blocking patterns. I think that's a really fascinating point you mentioned. We look at the rest of the running back roster, and I'll just go through it. I'll try to go through it quickly. I mean, there's so much talent. I'm trying to illustrate that here. We're getting some SEC talent with Malik Williams, who was with the Razorbacks. He will be eligible this year. Sean Peterson, Flex Joseph, and you're going to have some freshmen in there as well. There's a lot of talent. Flex got to contribute a little bit last year in a couple of games. All through that list, a lot of attributes and a lot of skills at that position.
Well, the one guy, AJ, that's probably gotten has been Sean Peterson. He's gotten a little bit more opportunities. Gigantic. He is big. He is physical. He is strong. What we've got to do with him, we got to continue to grow him where he is really good. And I tell him this. I've told Flex this, and I've told Marcus Townsend. I've told all of those kids that when Emmitt Smith came to the Cowboys, obviously a first-round draft for thousands of yards at Florida. He couldn't play in the game third down his rookie year because he couldn't understand pass protections, blitz pickups and those kind of things. So, you did that. And he hated it. He didn't want to have to come out of the game. Wasn't as sophisticated at Florida, and it's all 3 downs. Well, coming to the NFL, now all of a sudden we had to bring somebody in on third down and 5 or more that you knew that this guy could do whatever the blitz pickup was, could run the routes and those kind of things. So what I've done with all these young guys is tell them that story about Emmitt. And Emmitt was passionate about, I want to learn because I don't ever want to have to come out of the game. And so all of these guys, whether we rotate them and keep fresh legs in the game and stuff, you want to be able. And so with Sean, you can run. We'll hand you the ball. You're going to do a great job. Can you do blitz pickup? If the quarterback audibles and changes the protection, you can't make a mental mistake and let the quarterback get hit or get the quarterback get pressured. So for all of those guys, whether it's Flex, whether it's DeMarcus Townsend, the young kids, that's a big thing that they've got to do. Then the second part of that is God gave you unbelievable ability as a running back. You have vision, you have speed, you have toughness, but you're going to have to catch. Can you run routes? Can you run routes? Get in a route, whether it's whatever it is, it's man coverage, and can you stick that guy and break away from him? And so that's things. I mean, I hate that we missed spring practice because all of these would have done. I mean, we would have spent hours of teaching these guys the right way to do it. So obviously we come back for training camp in the summer. That's what guys have got to be doing.
Last thing I'll ask you here before we wrap up, and to specify, I'll target blitz pickup. Do you see guys when running backs come from maybe so there's a lot of talent in South Florida. We're recruiting a lot of these South Florida guys, and obviously they're defending a lot of, or they're trying to pick up complex defenses. Do you see a difficulty in running backs or a level of being able to adapt quickly from these running backs that come from, offenses and that are trying to phrase this correctly? Maybe the defense they're going up against is a complex defense, has a lot of talent, guys going to D1. What's that transition for your running backs when in picking up schemes? and being able to do that effectively as a young player.
Yeah, well, AJ, the one thing that they have that is unbelievably great, they got Tim Harris as a position coach, and he does a great job. He does not put a kid in the game that's not ready to play at any phase, whether we're ahead, we're behind, we're on a critical drive. If that kid goes in the game, Tim has trained them to be ready to run the ball, blitz pickup, run routes, do whatever they got to do. If you're not ready, he's not going to put you into the game. But I do think that kids that on our team, the running backs, like you said, they have played against some really, really good athletes. The scheme may not be as sophisticated. Good blitz linebackers or outside linebackers or corners or safeties and stuff, because the athletic kids in the state of Florida, those kids have competed against some really good ones. Now, their technique may not be as clear and good as it's going to be, but they know how to compete, and that's kind of what you love about the kid.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where, the biggest transitions from, high school competition to, playing ability, but a blitz pickup, that may be one of the things that gets you 10 more plays a game if you're able to do that.
We had some good running backs in North Carolina, and one of them that a lot of people here in South Florida would have known. Now, Bernard with the Cincinnati Bengals from St. Thomas. A lot of people said, he's too small. He was probably 5'9.5", electric change, and he could scoot through the lines, probably 210 pounds. 240-pound linebackers would blitz, and he would stone them. I mean, his technique and his toughness and stuff like that. So it inspires me about some of these guys like Flex and DeMar have to be 6'2", 245 pounds to be good at all those things. You just got to learn the right techniques and how to do it. And Tim Harris does a great job of teaching.
Yeah, he can lay down. He can lay down.
He was electric.
Hey,
great punt.
Yeah, he could get you some yards back at special teams. What's for dinner tonight, Butch? What you got on the menu this evening?
Mashed potatoes. Okay, with some kind of a sausage weenies and sauerkraut. Kind of a German type of a deal.
I like that. Are you cooking? You get the night off. You get the night off.
I got dishwashing tonight. I'm the cleanup tonight.
Okay, that's fair. That's all just fair. That's how it goes. All right, Butch. Appreciate the time. All the best this week. I know spring meetings is coming up. You're not going to get to visit my neck of the woods here at the Panhandle of Destin, but you'll have a good time with the Zoom calls. We'll chat soon. Thanks to everyone once again for joining in. We'll do it again. I believe Friday we'll be with Coach Merv from baseball. We'll catch up with him, and then of course we'll be back with Butch next week. So, Butch,
sounds good.
Enjoy the dinner. We'll chat soon. All right.
Take care, AJ. Right. Good to be with you.
Balls up, everybody. We'll see you soon.